All right. Ooh, I'm loud. I apologize for the delay in starting. Welcome to the April 8th board meeting. Let's begin with a pledge of allegiance. Okay, so each month the board would like to recognize students and staff members whose contributions or achievements are outstanding, employees who go beyond the call of duty, or community members whose generosity is greatly appreciated. This month we're pleased to call out the Robotics Club, who had a fantastic competition last weekend, 2 weekends ago, at MVP Arena. We had an elementary school Odyssey of the Mind team go to states in Syracuse this past weekend. Anything else anyone else aware of? Just looking for anything else.
I do want to just make a comment about the robotics team. Being more of the humanities scholar and arts and education, I spent most of the day with them on Friday competition, and I was extremely impressed. The kids worked collectively together to problem solve. Like if the robot didn't move, and for example, the robot didn't move in one of their matches, and part of the problem solving is they realized they didn't take it off like test mode. Said, oh, they'll never do that again, right? And then the next time when they struggled with it, they realized that it had something to do with you have to turn Wi-Fi on or Wi-Fi off. I'm like, oop, they'll learn now, right, to make sure that happens. And, you know, I had talked to Mr. G as kids were trying to fix it, and I said, when do you step in? He said, only if I have to, and if it's a matter of like last minute, need to get it done. And they had back-to-back matches from like 1 to 2. And they needed to fix it, and you saw Mr. G jump in, and he was like helping the kids, and they were screwing and putting together and coding and all that. I spoke to Mr. Goodman, who is their mentor. They're allowed one mentor in the field, and he's a retired GE engineer. And walking around and seeing, they call it the pits, right, because it looks like pit crews. Some of the schools have really elaborate pit crews, like they're beautiful. They look like fancy garages. And so I was asking him, like, you know, and Mr. G and the kids, they've kind of got the basics, but what they need to do to fix the robot. And Mr. G said that there are no hard rules with robotics competitions. So what a lot of schools do is the kids, all they do is just market and fundraise. Then they take the money and hire a company and pay them $20,000 to build a robot. Our kids, they do the work. Go ahead. No. No, you can't. Yeah, we can't call it.
We're talking about that.
Right. Our kids do it from soup to nuts. And Mr. Goodman coaches on the coding piece, coaches on the mechanics of it. And how impressive of our students. They could fundraise. They could do what other schools are doing, and they weren't big, fancy schools, and pay a company to build them, because there were some fancy robots. I was like, wow, they're super fast. And our kids take pride in building their own robot, managing it, fixing it in between matches. And it was interesting because you could see the stress because they were like trying to fix it and get ready. Mr. G makes it very clear they support each other. There was one student in particular who kind of snapped at his teammates. He made him sit out a match. And then he learned to keep it in check. And he worked as a teammate. So I have to give a huge shout out to Mr. G. Again, I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun because it's my first time. But more importantly, the team. It's usually, there were some middle school students there to learn, but the high school students, they did it from beginning to end, and they should be very proud of themselves.
Cool. So we're going to move on to the discussion of the agenda as it stands, and also any other possible new business items to discuss for the agenda. One of the possible things that's mentioned on here that we discussed is the principal search update, how that's happening and what the plan is for that.
So the posting closes next Wednesday. We currently have, last time I checked, 18 applicants. The process that I've done in the past is, and I shared this with the board, is that I want to make sure that it is stakeholders are determining who their next principal is going to be. So what happens is, say we end the search with 20 candidates. When the 20 candidates, myself and the leadership team will narrow it down to 10. Right now, at a quick glance, there was a couple of people who applied who do not have their school building leader certification, so they won't be in the running, right? So from there, we narrow it down to 10 people. Myself and either Melissa or Francis, the board leadership, will do a screening interview with those 10 candidates. 20 minutes, fast, furious, get to know them, put a face with a name. From those 10, will be narrowed down to 6. And those 6 candidates will be welcomed back. It will be a 2-night process of going through 3 interview panels. And these interview panels are stakeholders. I am not on any of those panels. So basically, we come to the determination, what 6 candidates do I feel would be a good fit, we could coach, we can support, and that would be, staff would be receptive to. So over a period of 2 nights, three candidates each night rotate 45 minutes to an hour through each panel. And then each panel has like a team leader. We use rubrics, so we're able to quantify. And then from there, there's qualitative data as well. The team leaders keep their team on tasks. The teams meet prior to go over what you can and cannot ask legally, and we be consistent, So I'm sure Avis is saying HR, right? Consistent questions. And then they pick their top, it ends up being their top 2, both qualitative and quantitative. And I always say in the beginning that when I do a deeper dive in reference checks, that if something percolates, I may not be able to tell you what, but it may disqualify someone. Because sometimes folks have something that's happened in their past that we want to make sure that we would deem it would not be a good fit for us. So from there, the top 2 candidates I meet with, make a final determination. If one is naturally eliminated, then it's one. And then that one candidate will develop an entry plan or a success plan, because entry plans are a fickle thing, because you really don't know what you need to do unless you do it. And then they present to the Board of Education in an executive session, and then from there, there's resolution. A couple steps I forgot. At the end of this week, surveys are going to be going out to internal and external stakeholders of what you want in a principal. We'll use that when we determine those 10 candidates. When we get to the 6 candidates, I actually provide each and every one of them with a discovery packet. In the discovery packet is things that aren't confidential, but it could be data, where we've been, what we're doing, what we want for the future. Because I'm a firm believer that an interview shouldn't be, and I got you, right? I want them to see our data, and when we say, where do you think we need to work on? What ideas do you have? And why not give them the information so that they can clearly speak to ideas or potential solutions they've used in the past? So the discovery document is given to all 6, and they can use it in any way they want. Again, it's not confidential information, but it will allow them to speak specifically to each of the panels. So we're hoping that by the end of May, we can have a special session, a brief session with the board where they are presented the entry plan, and then we can have a board meeting so that whomever the selected candidate is can give their 30-day notice by June 1st.
Quick question.
Sure.
Are we privy to what they say in the entry plan? Oh, we give, as board members, can we see that?
Yes, they'll present to you their entry
Okay,
plan.
we are, okay, they are, I missed that.
Yeah, they'll present to you their entry plan or their success plan, I like to call it, because again, it's like, what's the saying about, fish in a barrel? What they believe will make a successful entry into the school district. And it will be presented to you both hard copy and whatever media they use to ask questions. And I will request that they give it to me prior so that you have time to look over it and ask questions.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, will we also be able to see their past, like resumes and things like that? So we can see what their track record is, not just, we all have good ideas, but let's see
Well,
what, the experience level is.
Right, so I can give you obviously an outline of their past. I'm sure within their presentation they will outline that. So it becomes a little bit of a gray area, and I know we've talked about this before, and we had spoken to Lauren about it in our retreat. This board has one employee, that's me, and then everyone else is my employees. So it becomes this really gray area, but any good candidate, when they present to you, is going to provide you with that information. Does that make sense? So if they choose to provide it to you, that's great. That's a choice that they have. But when it comes to the hierarchy of our organization, they become my employee. So I want to make sure that I kind of have very clear boundaries, and so that we're not violating any labor, not necessarily labor laws, but expected processes and protocols. It would be like you handing out my resume to folks prior to appointing me.
Yep, turn it off. Anything else? Cool. Cool. Okay, so the next thing is actually going to be a discussion for the board, because we have to kind of come to some decisions based on guidance on data security we received from our legal counsel. There's an interpretation of New York State education law around the regulations protecting student information, which means that student names should be kept out of records, including board minutes and potentially subtitles on recording, anything having to do that is recorded that has a student's name in it. Obviously, we've geared our whole meeting recently around having students here, around celebrating their successes, around elevating everything that they're doing to try to make sure that that's what we remember what we're here for, is to make the school happen in that part that we do. So there's some suggestions as to how to possibly keep some of that, but it all essentially boils down to we can't use a student's name, or a minor's name even really, in a way that's recorded. Now, that could be as simple as we just make sure that the minutes just refer to clubs. Or, we don't have any students here tonight for the Dungeons & Dragons Club, but we would refer to them as club and not identify anybody by name. We could choose to keep them out of the minutes and also potentially stop streaming, in which case we as a group could continue to use their names here in the room and celebrate them here in the room and invite the community to come to their meetings here in the room, but we would lose the ability to stream, because one of the requirements on streaming is that the subtitles have to be made automatically from the transcript, so YouTube does that for us automatically. So we're kind of caught in a thing there. Any idea of editing the feed afterwards that's so much work.
We don't have the manpower.
We don't have the manpower, and I mean, I've done it. It's a tremendous amount of work. Does anyone have any ideas or feelings? Davis?
Hello? Yeah, okay. I have an idea. So maybe we can recognize as a group, without the names, of course, and then can we do like some sort of certificate maybe that can be handed to them? And they could attend the meeting, but we can just,
And not say their name, you mean? So like,
No, not, just
I mean,
handing them
or-
like a,
or-
like a this has been appreciated by the school board type of thing. Or it could even be like end of school year, because I know they do awards, right, or certificates at the end of the school year,
Right.
that they've been recognized by the school board or
I mean,
something like that.
that's a possibility. The thing is too, it also, the shout outs that we get during the athletics things of how many points people scored.
Yeah,
That's not necessarily a call out from the board. That's just a statement of, look how good our students are doing.
right.
And we can't do that anymore. But yeah, I do agree with you on the certificate. I think it'd be cool anyways.
That's a great question. I didn't even think about athletics. Like when we do shout outs for, or the newspaper, but so this is where,
So many holes.
so Bethany is going to, who is the HR attorney, who sent us, because she's the Capital Region BOCES, so she sent it to all the superintendents and board clerks. Pose these questions, and I didn't even think about athletics. I thought about, like, we put kids' names in for honor roll in the paper, but that's okay. And then if the Gazette's interviewing the basketball team, or the Channel 6 has got kids on, where's the disconnect? Or where's the line, right? So Bethany's gonna try, did she give you any further clarification yet? No. So I have my chiefs meeting on Thursday. She's hoping to give us a little bit more clarification of like, so
What we
Ray,
can and cannot do.
I know,
yeah,
I don't know. I like the idea of certificates where we're like, not saying their name, but
Well, we can applaud them as a group and give them a certificate
Yeah.
to have,
Mhm.
you know, showing our appreciation.
Yep.
That's
we
my
can.
only idea, that's all right.
No, it's a great idea.
Just quick question. Why can't we just, prior to the opening of our meeting and don't stream, recognize them, maybe we start 15 minutes early and recognize them in person, using names and everything, and then stream afterwards?
We absolutely can.
Open a template to do that, or some sort of thing. Plan that ahead of time, just so that we, as a small community, we can, because we know these kids. You know, we know, I mean, I know half the kids. And so I think that would be good continuity to our mission. So maybe just mentioning them, then start streaming afterwards, pledge allegiance, and then yada, yada, yada.
I think that's absolutely, and that's actually one of the suggested routes. But it feels like we lose the power of doing it from this meeting. It feels like then we're, to me, like we're just sort of telling these kids they're great, which is fine. You know, like for example, the kid in the back, I'd like to tell him what a good job he did at robotics, but I can't say his name.
Hey, you did a good job.
You did a good job.
Kid in the back.
Nameless kid in the back.
Who works the light boards?
You know,
Is this in any way something where if we have something signed beforehand, we
That's
can
another
That's
do?
one of the questions we asked. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, maybe we could still do the recognitions here. Usually it's only a few people and they
Right.
know ahead of time and they're coming. So at least those, I can't solve the problem for everything else online, because I know that, to my mind, brings a problem of exposure. You know, like in sports or in acting, like if you want to be recruited and sought for these things later, how are people going to find you if now we're putting this?
Well, it even comes down to valedictorian,
Everything, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's going to have its own set of
it feels
problems, I think.
It feels to me this is a weird way to start this conversation. You know, as far as like dialing down on school board's recognition, but what it is.
So maybe I'll have more, and I can share it in my weekly update, the further guidance. I love all the ideas. But I guess I have more questions than ideas. Like, I don't know where the line is. And is it just school boards? Or is it, usually I can understand when things come down the pike, you know, the story behind it, so I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm hoping Thursday I have more.
Was there like a reason that this is coming up now, like out there? Like, I don't think we've had anything here that would make this relevant at the moment.
Do we have the email from,
It just simply says several data incidents in 2024 involving PII being shared through school board information. So maybe executive content leaked out?
oh, thank you. If any presentations are made at school board meetings, make sure they do not contain any student data. And that's another question I have, like, is it individual student data, or I can't present to you guys overarching data? That's,
I would assume, I mean, the difficulty here is it's such a small data set that it's not that hard to take guesses. Yeah,
But is she slapping our hand or everybody?
everybody's had.
this went to all the superintendents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just saw the piece about the student data. I didn't pick up on that, so I'm going to ask Bethany about that as well. So it just looks like there was some challenges in 2024 with, PII being shared through school board. They say there must have been some breach in data, but you can get kids' names from anywhere, the honor roll list or the Gazette for athletics. So I wish I had more definitive answers, but, I'm sure Bethany is getting bombarded and she's going to get clarity for all of us.
Yeah.
But for now, we just be extra careful for all the great kids with no names in the back who do great jobs for the school.
Cool. Anything else anybody have for tonight? All right, cool. We're going to move on to agenda changes. We have one agenda change that I've been told about. We're going to strike the capital project update. I need a motion for that, right?
Mhm.
Can I have a motion to strike the capital project update?
Yeah, I'll motion.
Have a second? The reasoning is because the CJ who's going to present on the capital project update apparently has the flu. So
He'll be back on the 23rd.
he'll be back. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended? Thank you, Tony. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Avis. All in favor? Or any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Anybody sign up for public comment tonight? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Okay. All right. We'll move on then. All right, we are going on to our first item, the acceptance of last meeting's minutes. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approve the minutes for the meeting of regular meeting on March 18th. It was a good time. It was in the elementary school. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
May I have a second? I'll second. Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
There'd been an update to, I voted on to establish the fund, repair
Yes,
reserve fund.
reserve, yep.
And I don't see that being talked about on here.
You don't see the vote, or you see?
I don't see the vote on here.
So that was a clerical error on our part. So Serena, did you get a chance to correct it in the minutes? Yeah, so she corrected it of how many yeas and how many nays. Is that in there?
It may need to be looked at again.
May need to be looked at again?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
It says,
1302.
is it,
It says all in favor, motion carried.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Serena,
So I had made that.
Yep.
right, no, so what we'll do is, again, I think it was just a clerical error. So Serena and I kind of walked through what the template that Celeste used to do about, who first, who seconds, who yays, who nays. And so it's just, she can go in and correct that. Do you
Yep,
see it?
thank you.
Does it show it there?
While they're sorting that out, any other questions or concerns about the minutes of last meeting?
Oh, it's showing opposed on here.
It's showing all in favor in here, but maybe mine is old.
That's odd because Jeff has it in real time and it does say one opposed.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
She'll fix it. She'll fix it, so.
All right.
So can we just do a motion to accept this?
accept it as
Amended?
amended,
Yeah.
if you're comfortable with that.
That's fine.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Oh, wait, don't you need a second it before we?
I guess, yeah, we could do that.
I just-
A motion to accept it as amended. May I have a motion?
A motion?
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Avis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Sorry about that. I forgot we had
okay.
amended. All right, now it's presentation time. Don't say anyone's name. First, we're going to have Mr. Gilmeister tell us about Dungeons and Dragons Club.
Supposed to wander over here, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Alrighty, so Dungeons and Dragons Club. So D&D Club got its first real start last year, and it's been awesome. I know a lot of the kids love it, and it becomes the highlight of their week, which is crazy to me. I walk down the hall, and every morning there are students who are like, "Mr. G, Thursday?" I'm like, "Yes, it's Thursday," like always. And they always run off very excited and pretty amped up, to say the least. And so D&D Club, again, meets primarily twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays. From the very beginning, our goal is just been to play tabletop role-playing games, allow kids to run away with their imagination for about an hour and a half at a time, and just have fun together. But this year, in the fall, what happened was I had a couple 7th graders come up and ask, like, "Hey, Mr. G, can we, bring in, Pokemon cards too?" And I'm like, why not? And so we started playing that as well, and it's kind of become a hodgepodge of just things that the kids like to do and come together and just connect over. So that's been the program thus far. And in terms of what our purpose is, everything you see up there on the board, we try to build social skills and teamwork. We want to build confidence and kind of get them used to speaking in front of their peers. And on top of that, we want to foster creativity and storytelling. I think that last part, storytelling, is one of the things I love most about D&D Club. You may not think about it, but I have been using D&D Club as a way of exposing my students to classical literature, which is weird to say. But my students currently are exploring a fey circus, like a fairy circus, and they don't know it yet, but they've been exploring Midsummer's Night Dream by Shakespeare. And they've been gone through Macbeth already, and this past week, we finished reading a story called The Most Dangerous Game in 8th grade English class. And one of my students, who was a part of D&D Club last year, looked at me and said, "Mr. Gilmeister, you plagiarized that whole story." And I was like, yes, I did. And so they're not only encountering stories and living through stories, but they're learning to appreciate English literature in a way they wouldn't otherwise be able to encounter it. And so while, again, D&D is just fun, and it's silly, and it's goofy, I'm finding that the kids are really benefiting from more than one way. And again, these are just things that I love about the club, and it's one of the things that the kids are learning to really embrace as they come every week. So that is our purpose. In terms of milestones, D&D Club started officially last year. So we have had milestones. We've had a lot of kids jump to our holiday party or our end of year party. We watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and we have Casa Villa pizza, and that's great, and they love it. But this past winter, we had a holiday party, and we watched, I think it was Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. And there's a hot cocoa bar, and the kids made that blanket you see up there, and we donated it to the Eagle Outlet. And so that way, just as a way for our little club to give back to our school and our little community. But also, another big, I call it a milestone, is around the same time we had that holiday party, I was looking into different programs and things to really give our D&D Club a boost. And I found this not-for-profit called Magic Kids. It was founded by special education teachers over in Minnesota. And I basically just shot them a quick email, said, "Hey, I work at a small school. We're starting off this club, and anything you would be willing to help us and support us with, that'd be really appreciated." And they sent us that care package you see there on the right. In total, it was over $900 worth of cards and supplies. And it really has allowed our students just to have their own decks to kind of encounter different card games and board games and other things on their own level. And so that's kind of been an awesome gift that the kids get to walk away with at the end of the year, and something they get to enjoy, when they go home this summer. So we haven't been around for very long, but I think we've definitely been able to do a lot for our kids and really make sure they feel like they belong somewhere. which for me at least is always like an awesome thing. You know, letting my kids know that they belong. I believe the next slide. Again, none of my students were able to join us, but I was able to do a quick recording of them, and I asked them, you know, what's something you enjoy most about D&D Club? And I have a few of their answers right here, and I promise none of them are paid actors. So here we go.
The thing I enjoy most about D&D Club is that it's very fun, and I get to spend more time with my friends. Can I go? My favorite thing about D&D Club is I get to share D&D with all my friends, and we have fun together.
My favorite thing about D&D is how I get to spend more time with my friends and be goofy like I want to.
The teacher is pretty funny.
So there you have it, guys. I'm pretty funny, but no, I mean, when it comes to D&D Club, it's a time for kids to belong, a time for kids to connect, and it's a time for kids to enjoy telling stories together. I don't need a lot for D&D Club. I think that this past year I asked for a couple sets of dice, and Mr. Rivenberg over there said, you know what, I'll give you 2 sets of dice. And that was pretty cool, so I can't complain. But we don't need much, you know, we're just there with our imaginations and with each other, so, you know, thank you guys so much for making D&D Club happen and giving us a place to play and time to do it. So thank you, appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you very much for having this club. My son goes to your club. I would have to agree, it really is a social building vehicle. Additionally, I think he's reading a lot more, especially the fantasy stuff. And we definitely have a lot more D&D stuff around our house. But thank you very much for doing this after school.
Thank you so much, it's an honor.
Thank you. All right. I'm a big fan of collaborative storytelling too. All right. Next, we're going to hear from the Elementary School Math Enrichment Group, the Crazy Eights Club.
This one? Thank you. Hi.
Thank you, nameless student in the back.
I'm Debbie Johnson, and I'm the advisor for the Crazy Eights Math Club. Oops. What it is an enrichment math club where we do a lot of fun math activities. We meet after school and basically just show the kids that math is all around us, and we just practice different math and math games and things like that. It's a lot of fun. The kids really like it. It's a very popular group. When I sent out to see who would like to go into it, there were 74 students who signed up this year, and it's a K through 2nd grade program. And so this year I did 2 sessions with 16 kids each in each of the sessions. The future goals, I just want to continue the club and hopefully expand it a little bit, maybe make more kids able to do it. And some of the activities that we do are the glow-in-the-dark geometry, where they used glow sticks to make patterns and make repeating patterns and even 3-dimensional patterns. We also did beach ball party, where they used addition and subtraction with beach balls. They also did that with the Crazy Eights race, where we used the mats on the right-hand side over there, and they had to use addition and subtraction to be the first one to get to the finish line. Funny Money was a week about just about exploring money and buying things with money, how to make change, what taxes were, things like that. And also spy training, where they had to complete different puzzles to find a secret code to open a locked box that had like prizes inside of it. So the kids really enjoy it. I enjoy teaching it. Any questions about it? Or? It is fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we get the other half that couldn't do it?
It's one of the only groups for the younger kids, so that's why they really enjoy that. So. It can take 16 students, and so I had 2 sessions with 16 students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I can talk again. Next, we have the Elementary School Social Peer-to-Peer Club.
Hello, my name's Bridget Minute, and I teach kindergarten for those of you who don't know.
And I'm Michelle DeLeon. I teach special ed to kindergarten and first grade.
Is this where I go? No. I'm ready? Sorry. Got it. Thank you. Okay. So this is Michelle, and I'm Bridget, as we just said, and we run the peer-to-peer program, which is a social skills program at Dwaynesburg Elementary. How do I go to the next slide? Oh. It's not working. There we go. It's cool. Was that the first one? Yeah. Okay, so just a little history of what peer-to-peer is. We started this program, it's been at least 15 years. I was trying to find the start date and I couldn't. It was started with another first grade teacher, Jessie Westfall, which I'm sure many of you remember at some point. She was with the district for a long time. And something we noticed was that a lot of kids needed more help with learning social skills, and we needed time to explicitly teach those. We didn't have a lot of time in our day, although we did try to incorporate that. So we decided to start a program where we could work with kids that really needed help in that area. We've helped kids for many years build relationships. It's been really great to kind of see those kids grow up, and now a lot of them are actually adults in the real world, which is awesome. And we really hope to continue this program for as long as we can.
So some of the goals that we've made for peer-to-peer is we really try to teach students to understand and manage their emotions. So the elementary school, we're actually piloting a program called Zones of Regulation, where we are teaching the children to identify the feelings that they're having and then give them some strategies to help self-regulate themselves when they're having those really big feelings. So that's one thing that we really try and teach and practice at peer-to-peer. Another thing that we are really working with them to do is to communicate successfully. I mean, we know there's adults that have a hard time with this, so especially all down to our younger kiddos who have all these things to say and all these feelings. We really work on helping them to get their thoughts and feelings out while also learning how to be a good listener and try to understand others' feelings as well. And also, my favorite part is practicing cooperative play. Again, this is something that, you know, really has to be taught in these younger years. And a lot of times we don't have the time that we wish we did during the school day. But this allows us to really practice cooperative play so that they can have fun and they just have those opportunities to practice sharing and, you know, getting along with each other and building relationships. And here's some pictures that we've taken. This is us working on our zones of regulation, where they were identifying the different feelings they can have and talking about reading facial expressions. And this was, we were talking about communication skills, making eye contact, being a good listener, listening with your whole body. And this is them playing cooperatively with each other. And a lot of the kiddos that we target for this program, they are students that sometimes do not naturally gravitate towards others to play. They sometimes are students that more play on their own naturally. So we kind of are really like teaching them and showing them that it can be fun and that it's work, but it's fun to have friends to play with. And they love each other. And that is it for us. Any questions?
Yes, I do. I don't think my mic's on now. Yes, it is. Okay. So they're referred to the peer-to-peer, the students are? Or
We
do parents
usually,
sign them up?
we usually start at the beginning of the year, because there's specific skills that we're really trying to target. We start with students first that we know of, that we have seen in the classroom. We wait about a month into the first month of school so that we can get to know the students, and then we can kind of see who can benefit from these skills and this
Yeah, we asked the
practice.
teachers, we put like a little feeler out. Do you have any students that you think would benefit from this program? It's not something you can necessarily sign your child up. And we do try to keep the age group like kind of similar so
Similar.
that we're practicing skills that kind of work and that they're actual peers.
I had another question. I think I forgot it. It's during the school day, right? Or is it
After
It's an
school.
It's after
after-school
school?
program.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
How many students are involved in the program at this point?
We try to keep it to be a little bit of a smaller group,
Yeah.
being that these students are really working on those skills of getting along with each other. So we typically are between like 5 and 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
we try to keep it small. We've had bigger groups and we found that we have less success.
Sure.
So keeping it small, we find that we can really like hone in on specific skills. And like when Michelle was talking about when they're playing and stuff, it just comes up so naturally because they're in their natural environment playing. So it's kind of like they're in charge and we kind of like watch and intervene when necessary. But that's one thing that we don't have a lot of time in the school day for. So
Lots of teachable moments
yes,
during this
yes.
time.
So many lessons.
And you primarily focus on like younger, like kindergarten, right?
Typically, we've had, like last year, our group went a little bit higher. We
Yeah.
always try to make sure that there's at least like a buddy that in a
Okay.
similar age range.
It depends on the needs of the kids and the school at the time.
Cool. It's awesome. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna skip that one. And it is time for the superintendent's report. Need Fairbairn stuff.
I had to wake Jeff up. Okay, so a couple things. Just a reminder, the Friday before Memorial Day, and we're going to make sure Tricia gets this out in Parent Squares, it's that contingent day based on the contractual. If we don't use more than 2 emergency closing days, et cetera, et cetera. So the Friday before Memorial Day, there will be no school for students. We're going to remind folks starting this week through Parent Square, social media. Wanted to get it out here on the board to officially say the board minutes, right? So, and it'll be on the website as well.
We've used one
One
closing
snow
day
day. Yep,
so far.
that's it, one emergency closing day. Speaking of calendar, our next meeting in 2 weeks will be, and the board will have purview to look at it, will be the adoption of the 25-26 school year. We kind of went back and forth about the 2 weeks around in December, and that it would only give us 4 emergency closing days. Maybe I'm old school from the 70s where we get, 10 feet of snow growing up in Scary County. It makes me a little nervous, but talking to the leadership team and talking to the teaching unit and so on and so forth, we're going to take a gamble and we're going to do the 2 full weeks in December. Worst case scenario is that we can't use more than 4 snow days. That has to be. Is that we either shave off of April break, which would not be popular, or staff and our students have to come back like the day of graduation, at the elementary level. So hopefully I'm not jinxing myself. Again, I'm old school. It feels to me that it's always cyclical. You have a couple no snowy winters, and then you get 2 really bad winters. So it's, let's throw good vibes to Mother Nature that we don't have a terrible winter. So, all right, what I have, and I'm going to get up and you're going to see here, and I have a piece of paper. Let me go ahead and pass it around. All right. So it came to my attention on social media that there was a message put out there about our legal notices were in the newspaper but weren't on our website. And I got talking with Melissa about this, and I said, you know what? This is a perfect, and I'm going to steal your phrase, teachable moment, where kind of educate in, the community as well as remind the boards. We get this timeline, and it can either come through state aid planning or school boards, and there's an echo, and I hate it. This is our holy grail of when we have to have things postmarked for the budget. So the things to note, like March 1st, right, Jeff had to submit any information necessary for the tax levy limit to the state comptroller. And this is the third one down, April 1st through the 5th, we must publish first of our 4 legal notices of the budget vote and board election. So 4 times in 7 weeks. The difference between the legal notice and our budget book. Legal notice, all it is saying, this is when the budget vote is, this is where it is, this is the time. That's the legal notice. That's it. That's all we're required to publish. What a community member had commented on is that the website doesn't have a legal notice. Well, we do have, it doesn't look like it does in the newspaper, but there is information on the Board of Education website. And what I think this community member might have confused with is that if you look through 7 days prior to the budget hearing, I call it the budget book. Basically, it's the whole budget. Needs to be made available in every building, in the district office, and on our website. So that's something different than the legal notice. But here's, and again, I made sure this is included, this piece of paper the board is looking at is included, attached to the agenda electronically. But if we look, right, so we're in compliance with our legal notices, they've gone out. And then April 21st, school board candidate nomination petitions are due back to the district clerk by 5 p.m., so that's 30 days before the election and the vote. April 22nd, determine the names of the candidates, and it's usually like a lottery whose name goes first on the ballot. And then the 25th, we have to distribute any military ballots on April 28th. We have to submit the property tax report card to SED, that's a Jeff job. April 30th, that's only for small city schools, so that's not relevant to us. And then here's the April 29th to May 6th. Districts must complete the budget 7 days prior to the public hearing. So this is where the budget book goes online. The budget book is in each building. It's just a paper copy. And then May 5th pertains to small city schools. May 6th is the last possible day for voter registration. May 6th through the 13th, we hold our public hearing, and we're holding ours on May 6th, correct? That's our, yep, May 6th is our budget hearing. And then it is available to residents during the 14 days prior to the vote. And then May 6th through the 15th, last day for voter registration by school district boards of registration. 14th, deadline for mailing the budget notice, which that's our budget newsletter, right? Our budget notice is that the packet we send out. And then on May 20th is our vote. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm sure the board already is aware that there's timelines, but the community knows as well, and that they understand that there's a difference between the legal notice versus the budget book. Any questions?
I'd just like to add that the Meet the Candidates night will be the 15th. Probably not in this room, but in this building.
Correct, and it's the same night as National Honor Society. It makes it a little tricky, but we'll figure it out, right? So works for me, so I can be in 2 places at the same time. I've learned that skill.
And then the budget vote will be at the elementary school by popular demand.
Correct. Budget votes at the elementary school. I met with the mayor and Chief Brody this afternoon about the parade. There are so many nuances with the parade. It is the same day as the budget vote because they rely on safety agencies in this community and other communities, that there's just really no way they could possibly move the parade. they're completely understanding that we have no choice when our budget vote is, but the parade is early enough, or actually in the middle. The voting starts at 1 o'clock. The parade doesn't kick off until 6:30, and gets done by 7:15. And there's a 45-minute window. I learned a lot. We have to work with the train schedule as well. So either before, I know, I learned something new. So folks will still have the opportunity to vote prior to the parade or right after the parade. Any other questions? Yeah.
I do. Only because it's usually a busy night for parents because there's so many things going on that same night. Will our class be doing like the Brooks barbecue chicken or any type of fundraiser that night?
Yeah, there's one that does, right?
The juniors will be doing it at the elementary school, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we'll make sure that you know and the community knows as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's usually a really busy night for parents.
It is.
And if we're, picking up your kids, you get the dinner
And go. Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and the mayor has respectfully, and you're going to get a formal invitation, would like the Board of Ed to march in the parade again. And they'd like to extend that if students and staff would like to march in the parade as well, they would love it. We kind of talked about how can we make a float for students and staff, or if the board wants to. So really connecting our community and bringing, it was a great event last year. I walked it in a boot, so I don't want to hear anybody can't walk it, because I walked it in a boot, if you remember. So it's a short walk.
What are the hours of voting again? You said they closed at
1 to 9, right? 1 to 9.
Okay, so yeah, there is some buffer afterwards.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And now we'll hear from Mr. Rivenberg, the Assistant Superintendent of Management Services, for what I'm sure will be all bright news and rainbows.
So I don't have a lot to say tonight because the state has not finished their budget. So it's a little frustrating when you are looking to finalize your state aid runs and all that for the district and you don't have those. A lot of my slides that I've got here tonight are just a summary of where we're at. I will say that, so tax cap still at 3.2, or the tax levy 3.2 is what we filed with the state. And then after doing some work, even since the last meeting, been able to get that gap down a little bit. So I am showing that we still have a little bit of a gap, really hoping that maybe the state decides to find some money and maybe fill that gap a little bit better. But we still have some work to do. We still have a couple weeks before we finalize budget for the board to accept on the 23rd. But a little less than $152,000 in what I'm showing here in the gap. That is, of course, with the use of fund balance and reserves already in the same amount that we used for the 24-25 school year. Wow, this microphone is super loud tonight. So this is just a summary of the revenue budget. Again, just showing that gap in a $20.7 million budget. Just remember, a lot of that has increased. A lot of the budget has gone up just because of debt service as well. But that is balanced out with building aid. Summary of the expense budget, just showing some of the summaries here of the different categories of the budget. Didn't dive into it at all tonight because we still have a lot of work to do to get where we need to be. Right now showing a 6.81%, but again, this is draft, so we expect some changes for the next time. I showed a slide on the component budget, same slide that I've showed the last time. The largest portion of the budget, obviously the program, followed by capital and then administrative. Just a reminder to vote on May 20th, what we were just talking about. The school bus proposition is significantly lower than it was this past year. We're only looking to buy 2 buses this year, so at a maximum cost of $230,000. And then the next proposition will also be to establish a repair reserve in the maximum amount of $300,000. that is it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I do, Jeff. This is all a relatively new board. What happens if the state doesn't get it together and pass a budget?
We're going to have to come up with our best guess, and we would likely fill the gap or make cuts based on what we see as the most, where we need to be, and balance the budget with fund balance or reserves based on what we. If you recall back from last year's conversation, we were looking to reduce our fund balance and reserve, or actually our reserve amount that we had balanced the budget with. So it's a matter of finding that medium balance, I guess you could say, and how much savings you want to use, because then you have to look at the long-term effects of how you keep using fund balance and reserves. So I don't know. My fingers are still crossed. I'm hopeful that the state comes out with their numbers pretty soon. Avis, you had a question.
Yeah. So I'm sure everybody's seen the news about New York State refusing to remove DEI. And the U.S. president is saying that if we don't remove it, then we don't have federal funding. We won't have federal funding. So what will it look like if we don't have that federal funding? I know they pay for the food, right?
So I'm gonna let Kim from comment.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I never know what's on or off.
Yeah.
So I'm on the legislative advocacy team, so obviously following this really closely. Here's the thing. Title funds in the food fund, the money for food, is legislated, meaning it has to be an act of Congress for that money to go away.
Okay.
The president cannot, nor can his administration, stop that money unless Congress passes a law.
Okay.
Regardless of if you're a Republican or Democrat, this is not politicized.
Right. Yeah.
New York State relies maybe 5 to 10% on these federal funds. These funds for southern states rely on these funds 30 to 50% of their funding for schools. It is with all the political advocacy and that's actually the bad word, an incorrect term. The people who are way smarter than me who live in the political world have been very clear that there is no way that Congress will ever pass a law diminishing these funds because they will decimate their school districts and they want to get reelected. So let me say this again. For those funds to go away, it would require an act of Congress. The representatives in Congress, both Senate and legislature, in our southern states rely 30 to upwards to 50% on these title funds to fund their school districts. If they were to pass this law or this act to remove these funds, they won't have a job anymore because they will defund their school districts. So what you're seeing a lot of is, and I can include the memos in the actual memos and the letters, is it a lot of it has to do with school accountability. So we're not a school in need of accountability, of improvement. They're called SIG grants that are filtered through the state.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the monies given to school districts like my previous district to put initiatives moving forward. And then they are also talking about during COVID, the stimulus funds, the ARPA and ESSER funds. Some districts capitalized in September and put in to expend that money. Jeff and I this summer said, ooh, this is a gamble. We knew what the election was coming, that you just never know if there's a change in administration. And when we were able to allocate every dollar, so we don't fall in that bucket. So there was a couple things going on, right? So the Secretary of Education on the federal level said, if you didn't use your stimulus money, guess what? You don't get to anymore. Jeff and I were smart. We could see the writing on the wall. So we made sure that we didn't lose a dollar. And as for our title funds and or the federal funding for nutrition, again, it would take an act of Congress. Now, I could be wrong. Act of Congress, it changes, they take a gamble. They're going to defund their schools in the South. We only have, 5% of our about 5% of our budget relies on these federal funds. We would figure it out. We would figure it out. So it would not decimate us or our budget.
Would we have to use one of our reserve funds to cover it, or?
We would probably just have to, we could rely on some of our reserves. We could, look towards more aggressive grant writing. We could look at, because it's always the goal, programs and staff, right? We never want to cut programs or staff if we don't have to. But really just, we would, if there was a hiatus with it, because everything's unpredictable, we would just tighten our belts. So we would say, guess what, we can't, we'd have to slim down our supply, the supply line. We'd have to slim down, so maybe this athletic team was due for uniforms this year, well, let's wait a year and we'll get them next year. Kind of just not cutting programming, but saying, just like when we put our families on a budget, right? Just saying, we're gonna trim the budget, we're gonna hold tight, but again, even if something devastating was to happen and I'm completely wrong, it's only 5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm really not worried at all.
Okay.
It's interesting, Maine did something very similar like 2 months ago, kind of took a stance with it. And then again, it was back and forth. And then I don't know what's happened with it, but Maine said, well, fine, we're not gonna pay federal taxes. So I don't know what the outcome was of that, but my job is to educate the kids at Duanesburg, and I keep my ear to it because I want to advocate for small schools and rural schools, and stay on top of what's unfolding. But in my professional opinion, I am not concerned. Right now, to me, it's just a lot of noise and a lot of posturing.
Okay, thank you.
I really am
appreciate
not
it.
worried.
All right, thanks.
I think this is a case where being a small district actually kind of helps us as well, financially. Larger districts, I mean, it's going to hit them a lot harder. So again, we have to consider that as well. But yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. And it's nice to know that there is a backup plan for something that theoretically really can't happen anyways. But
Right. And it's interesting because a few years back, I forget what budget season, Jeff will remember what year, we were, the sky is falling kind of attitude where like they said everyone was going to be cut 20%. Do you remember that budget? Was it 22, 23?
Yeah, I think.
And we all
it was
panicked.
21
Every
or
school district
22,
panicked.
yeah.
I remember like, how are we going to cut 20%? How are we going to cut 20%? I think this is when it was the change of the governor right before Governor Cuomo left. And every school district was having a panic attack. And we went through and we came up with plan A, plan B, and then guess what? It never happened. So I've learned that, just like I say to my doctor, I'm not going to worry about it until you tell me to.
Anybody else? Tony?
Of expenditures and
So,
where things were being cut, where things were not being cut.
yeah, so at the next meeting, you will have a line by line. The reason why you don't have it right now is because if I give you multiple copies of a budget, you're just gonna have multiple copies of something that's fluctuating and changing right now during budget. Yeah, that's correct. So it'll be provided also in board docs ahead of time too.
So what you vote for is a number, right, a total number, and
Right.
then hopefully, fingers crossed, we have an executive budget. And yeah, a line by line, that's your budget book that I talk about, right? That's your budget book that we produce on the website. But if you'd like have you done in the past where you've done like, this is what we've historically spent and this is where, do you do that normally?
Yeah, so I would provide, line by line of, what it's been and then the dollar amount for increase.
Increase or decrease depending on where we fall on the budget.
Right.
Yeah, so we can make sure that before it goes to, for public open meeting session, we can provide it for the board to review. Again, they filed another extension, so it was supposed to be yesterday, and now there's another extension. They filed the extension so that they can meet payroll, but without thinking school districts are hanging by, on the edge of their seats waiting so we can finalize our numbers.
Right.
As soon as it comes available, we will get it to you guys.
Yeah.
Hot off the presses.
Anybody else? No?
Thank you,
Okay.
Jeff.
All right.
All right, moving on into instructional personnel recommended actions. We have a couple exciting things here. So we'll go through them. Well, we're going to do 701 and 702 together. It's the rescinding the resignation for retirement of Christine McCain, and then accepting the resignation of Christine McCain. She has gone a different direction, but is still leaving the district, unfortunately. So may I have a motion to accept 701 and 702?
I'll motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Cool. All right, 703, accepting for resignation for retirement, Andrea Conover. Be it resolved, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts the resignation for retirement of Andrea Conover, elementary school principal, effective July 1st, 2025. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
Welcome to retirement.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
I know I probably shouldn't, but I go the wrong way with it every time.
I means on.
Oh.
It's one.
Oh, but see, I see the O and think on.
Zero. See?
So I was really debating what to say tonight, but rest assured, come June. This is bittersweet. I've really enjoyed my first year with Andrea, and she runs a tight ship, and I respect that. I respect that because sometimes leaders want their employees to be their friends, and she runs a tight ship and because she wants what's best for kids, and that is commendable. So I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I am going to miss you and your spunkiness, and the chocolate will always be on my table for you. You didn't take any today, I was shocked. And we will miss you, and I'm jealous. I'm like, I still got like 9 years. So we do wish you the best in your service to this district. And I've said this to the staff when we announced it, that 14 years in the district, she could have moved on, moved to a place closer to home, made a lot more money, but she was committed here and committed to us and committed to the kids. So that is commendable, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Andrea and I have history. I just want to thank you for your service and your time and attention to the students. You will be missed, and I wish you the best in your future, in your time off. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm jealous. Not fair. Good luck with everything.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. And, obviously there's time between now and July 1st for us to thank you again. So thank you for your time. We've done the motion. May I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you. Next, 704. Be it resolved, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts the resignation for retirement of Donna Wilkes, library media specialist, effective June 30th, 2025. May I have a motion? Thank you, Sarah. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Just that she's beating Andrea out the door by one day. It's a race at the parking lot.
She is also going to be missed.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, I know Donna's not here, and her commitment to the district and the kids and the track team, right?
Mhm.
She's very passionate, and she's very passionate about her field, and she has seen what a from a stereotypical librarian to what a library media specialist is, and providing that rich support to classrooms in digital literacy and also just literacy. So we're going to miss her. She's just a sweetheart. So I'm incredibly grateful that I got to spend some time with her this year.
She'll be missed for sure. Great. Any other comments or questions? Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. And finally, 705, be it resolved, based on the recommendations of the superintendent, the Board of Education approve the medical leave of absence for employee 1884, March 12th, 2025, till medically cleared to return. May I have a motion?
A motion? Oh,
All right. Okay, thank you, Tony.
Who was first?
Avis was first.
it was a tie, but.
It was a tie. Tony allowed Avis first. Any questions or comments? All right, may I have, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Cool. All right, non-instructional personnel. This one we'll do as a group. This is for item 801 through 807, which improves a series of long-term and standard substitute teachers, counseling clerical aid, an ECA appointment of Mike Lewandowski to baseball, modified baseball, and a volunteer parent coach. May I have a motion for 801 through 807?
I'll motion.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments? Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Financial items, 901 through 903. May I have a motion to accept?
Francis, can we separate these out to vote?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so then we'll go motion for 901, accepting the financial reports, the warrants, AC 30, EC 14, and the March 2025 ECA Treasurer Report. May I have a motion? Thank you, Tony. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'll just comment on the warrant section, where we do have something that didn't pass the internal auditor. So I'm not comfortable with that, and I just kind of wanted to explain why.
Yes, that's fair. Our auditor flagged $350 for the use of breakfast for teachers at a conference day. Upon further investigation, it was noted that we do have a board policy, I believe it's 5232, that does allow for the usage of working breakfasts, but the auditor does indicate that more documentation was probably necessary ahead of time.
I think it also says it needs board approval prior. That's the part that I'm more concerned about.
The policy is at the discretion of the superintendent. Prior approval of the superintendent or designee must obtain for food and beverages provided at meetings, according to the policy.
Can I see that, Francis?
Absolutely. So,
So then what would be the other reason for the auditor not feeling that this is
I guess,
okay?
and I do have that question. So she's only here every few weeks. So does she come this week? She'll be here tomorrow, and I'm going to ask her that question because we've had 3 other superintendent conference days because they're working meetings that we've provided. The staff usually does a potluck lunch, but so I'm confused myself why the 3 other days we weren't cited. So I kind of want to ask her, so when she cites things like this, it's not like it goes to the comptroller or the auditor, it's just kind of, something that she wants the board to be aware of. Again, I'm going to ask her based on the board policy and the 3 other times that we've done this, it wasn't an issue. So I'm not sure. So I can't answer that question until I see her tomorrow. And then my next question to her is that, like, what does she need in the future to, like, that would make her comfortable? But then I also know that we have the possibility of reaching out to some of our school partners to provide breakfast during these staff days. So I can't, because she doesn't live here and she only comes here once every few weeks.
Right.
I can't really ask her until I see her tomorrow. But again, the policy says based on the superintendent, and that's what we did the last 3 times, and it was okay, but now it's not okay.
I guess it does say prior approval. Was that obtained? That's what I'm wondering.
Yes, because I actually requested it myself.
Well, okay. So was that presented to her? That's.
I don't know. She didn't ask. She handed that in. Go ahead.
Yeah, so while Kim had actually said that she wanted the breakfast to occur, I think what the auditor was looking for was further documentation that she had really just asked the food director to do it. And I sent a message to her regarding the request, or that Kim had actually sent the request, and I think she was just looking for further documentation. So in the future,
an email.
Email would
Okay.
suffice.
But I understand documentation is always important.
Yeah.
So if that is what's needed.
Yeah, and
Right.
we can make sure
Correct.
moving forward. So again, this isn't anything that's going to get us in trouble with the auditors or the state.
I just know she's done right by us for over a decade.
Yeah.
And I really respect, her feedback, and when she says something, I would take it with credence.
Right. So if it's something as corrective as me having it in an email, that's fine.
It seems like that would be
Sufficient,
sufficient.
right.
Yeah.
So something like that.
I think additionally, Melissa and I were actually looking at neighboring districts' versions of this policy. It probably needs some rework, and there should be some real clarity sort of set up around that. So maybe we should flag that in policy committee for a look.
Yeah.
Which-
What policy number is it again?
5232?
5323.
5323.
5323? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Yeah, just without further explanation, I'm not comfortable, so I'm opposed.
Okay. Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain. I'm going to abstain.
Okay. All right. 902. The approved resolution and purchase proposal of Chromebooks. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the following resolution and purchase proposal of Chromebooks. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Rivenberg, could you please explain this to us?
So this is a resolution to purchase Chromebooks over a 3-year period, or purchase Chromebooks for next year, and go through BOCES to utilize BOCES aid through an agreement. So BOCES will purchase the Chromebooks, and then we get the Chromebooks through BOCES. So it's basically a purchasing agreement, like a loan to take out for the Chromebooks.
This is very similar to the photocopier process we did last year, right?
It absolutely is the same process.
What's neat about this is that, neat's the right word. So say if we were to just buy them outright, whatever the cost would be. Does the cost say how much it is?
Like $88,700.
All right, so what they do is, the installment plan is, say let's make it an easy $80,000. The first year you do 3 equal payments. And say, it's $25,000. What happens is you get aid on that money the following year and it makes your payment. Does that make sense? Because BOCES lags a year. So the installment plan, because we know things like Chromebooks, they're kind of consumables, right? The life of them are 3 to 5 years. What happens is by getting in the cycle of installment purchases, you make your first payment, and then the rest of the payments are somewhat covered by the BOCES aid that you get back for them.
How much are we paying per Chromebook with this agreement versus if we were to just go out and buy them ourselves? Because I know I'd ask for a little bit more information on the numbers with this, because just a blanket, almost $90,000 agreement, but for what? What are we getting for this?
You're asking how many computers?
How many
are we getting?
computers, or these like hours that they're gonna work on any of the technology if it's broken, like what?
He's pulling up the actual.
What are we agreeing to with this?
I thought there was like 300.
It's a few cohorts worth, so because you have to replace them
Every
3 to 4 years.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years, because they don't.
Usage,
I thought it was like 250, wasn't it? 250, 300.
Well, if you assume your BOCES aid rate, which is around 50 cents on the dollar, right? So that's what the average is. What we actually get back, $5.12. So one of the last reports that I had on our BOCES aid was a 3-year average was 63.67 aid rate on that COSER.
How many Chromebooks total?
So I think that, are we doing a math problem? Are we going to
She
solve
just
how
wants to
many
know, like,
Chromebooks?
She's curious. She's curious, like, is this 250 Chromebooks or is it 100 Chromebooks? Is it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Yes.
I thought we were trying to calculate how many it was paying for. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yep.
I've got the quote right here.
I thought you were asking me how much was the aid paying for in Chromebooks and.
Okay.
250 Chromebooks. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yep, at $354. Yep. Yeah, they're $354, 250 if we were to pay. So it's the same rate if we just bought them outright. But it becomes aidable at a 60, almost 64% aid rate. NARIC does, BOCES and NARIC services, it's never just a flat. Each different category is a different aid rate, and he just looked it up, and it's 63 and change, so almost 64% aid rate that we get back on that. And again, each year, and then it helps make your payment for the next year. And then that helps us keep technology relevant without having to dish out $90,000 every 3 years.
Gotcha. So, and excuse my ignorance, Francis, I'm going to lean on you a little bit on this. What would a going price be for a Chromebook? And do we know the stats of the Chromebook, like how much memory, are we doing an apples to apples kind of thing?
Hold on, we have.
Actually, I have it right here. I pulled it up. So it's their Dell Chromebooks.
Okay.
Hold on. And it is,
$354.89. $354.89 per Chromebook.
oh yeah, I have it right here.
Oh, you got it.
I
Look at
just
that.
said I had it, right? So it is quote name, Dwaynesburg total, customer number quoted on expires, sales rep, phone, email, billing. Right, but she's asking like, what's their memory and things like that? What type of Chromebooks are they? Right?
Right, yeah, what are the specs on it? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers bounce between $160 for your base to $500.
So is that like 4 gigs to 8 gigs or something like that?
No.
4
Yeah.
gigs to, 8 gigs.
Yeah, that's why I just think it'd be really good for us to know before we vote on this, is this an apples to apples type 1
Right. No, I understand.
price point?
The thing is, with the BOCES aid at 63%, which is insane, we're getting back $212 the second year on each Chromebook. So they're really only costing $135 after the first
Right,
year.
so it says the Dell Chromebook 3120 features an 11.6-inch HD display, Intel N100 processor, 4 gigabytes of, and I don't know what any of this means, I'm just reading. 4 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, 64 gigabytes of eMMC storage, and runs on Chrome OS with a 360-degree hinge for 2-in-1 versatility.
So the
Wow.
So Francis, that's closest to the $160 one or the $500?
yeah, no,
That's
that's the
closer to,
160.
that's about the 350. I mean, I think it sounds like we're paying rack rate.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's a fine question, and
It
I'm glad
is.
we walked through it. It's one of those situations where it definitely looks like BOCES are saving us some money.
They do, and again, we make the first payment, and then the BOCES aid comes back and helps and makes the second and the third payment. It keeps the cycle going.
No, I understand.
I know Avis has got a question.
I was just wondering, is this including like a warranty? Do they have warranties on them? Because I know they break a lot.
That's what Joe fixes a lot.
I remember that, yeah.
I'm sure there is, every technology you get gets a certain level of warranty.
Okay.
There have been times when he's had to send them back, send 1 or 2 of them back, because
They're
something happened
defective,
that's defective, yeah.
Okay, all right.
They definitely have a warranty.
I think too tends to be, I can't speak to these necessarily, but institutional purchases like this tend to be relatively repairable on site and tend to be able to get repair parts. And I know Joe has quite a few repair parts down there.
Yeah, he's fixing screens all the time.
So I would assume that, there'll be additional cost to repairing them, but it won't be the same as replacing an entire one.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Maybe it's a moot question, or maybe it's a dumb question, but post-COVID, during COVID, actually school districts were given not just extended warranties, but I think it was federal money towards fixing and repairing these things. Is there anything out there that might
That's the
linger?
stimulus funds that I mentioned earlier that are, where now they've said no more, if you haven't expensed the monies that you no longer can, but we did expense it by August 31st, right? Yeah, it was like August 31st, before that, give or take. There are things you can buy extended warranties, right? But unfortunately, Chromebooks tend to be disposable, just like tablets, right? You guys have little kids, right? How often they go through a tablet or break it? So Joe does a great job repairing what he can and within the warranty of sending back when he can as well.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
just seeing if
Yeah.
maybe there was something else out there that we could look into.
Not that I'm aware of. I know there's grants out there to buy technology, but not to necessarily repair or warranty.
Yeah.
Okay. Never any money to repair. That's not fun. All right. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right. And finally, matter 903, be it resolved based on the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approve the list of contracts between Duanesburg Central School District and each party. In this case, it is the Schenectady City School District Health and Welfare Group. These agreements shall not be binding on the parties until authorized and signed by each party's respective representatives. May I have a motion? Thank you, Tony. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That was very quiet. Any questions or concerns? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Matter 1001, be it resolved, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approve the CSE and CPSE minutes from the meetings of February 25th, March 4th, 6th, 11th, 12th, 20th, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th as attached. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
I've always wondered, why do we vote on these? We're not there.
We're required by law.
We're required by law.
You know why we're required by law? Because
Silly.
in the attachments, you see what services the committee has determined, and there's financial,
Information that
right,
needs
well, it's
accepted.
financial, it costs the
Yeah.
district money for some of these services, maybe in-district or out-of-district placements, so there's that financial string.
Compliance.
Yeah.
I
You know
get
what
it.
the fun part is? You may choose to vote no,
Yeah.
but you can also be charged with educational neglect.
Yeah. I remember that. I do recall. Thank you, Francis, for the reference.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Reminder.
it's, you know, I don't know. I agree with you. This is whatever. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Cool. We're on to other. This is just an info item, or do we have to accept this?
You have to accept it.
Okay, we have to accept this. Be it resolved, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts the donation of baseball hats in the amount of $540 for the varsity baseball team from the Lansing Gardens. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ray. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to the Lansing
That's
Gardens.
super generous.
That's awesome.
I learned a fun fact. Did you know that baseball caps do not get reused year to year?
Oh,
I
yeah.
would not,
I
hope
didn't
not.
Humanities. You reuse helmets, football helmets.
Yeah.
Oh.
And those are disinfected.
Those are
Oh,
plastic.
I know. I was like, I just thought, look at me grow. And when you guys interviewed, I said athletics was my blind spot. Look at me grow and learn. I'm like, oh, I never even thought about it, that you can't reuse hats.
Let the minutes show how proud we are of Kim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Cool. Don't think we need an executive session tonight, so I am, one note, the next meeting will be on a Wednesday. It'll be April 23rd, because we have to, all the school board meetings will be meeting on Wednesday because we have to vote on the BOCES budget. And that's a special day. So, same bat time, but different bat day. Any other things before we close the meeting? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:07 p.m.? Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Anyone? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.